Week 15 of the DSFL 6, the series to determine the greatest dynasty in NFL history. The playoff race is heating up in the AFC. Down to the bottom of the division winners, the AFC West leading Oakland Raiders of the 1970s are 7-6. Same with the club in the wild card spot, Kansas City. And in the hunt, Denver. All of the teams vying for the division lead, Denver, Kansas City, and Oakland, are all with the same record at 7-6, so the Raiders have to win. For some reason, Stabler keeps getting sacked for safeties this season, but Mark Van Egan, what has been an injury-shortened season, scores his 4th touchdown of the year, and the Raiders win the ball game. The 1970s Oakland Raiders are still in first place out of the AFC West. So in order to keep a tie for first place in the AFC West, the 90s Broncos need a win against the sputtering 90s Bills. Jim Kelly got off to a great start with that touchdown to Andre Reed, but then loses the football, and the Broncos score off with a turnover. Denver has won 4 of their last 5. The Bills have lost 3 games in a row, and Buffalo's basically done. The Broncos and the Raiders are both 8-6 in the AFC West. Now let's move over to the NFC West. This division might even be tighter. Well, the Rams currently lead the division, as you see at the left. They're the top team at 9-4. The 49ers and the Seahawks are the first 2 wild card teams, but they've got to keep on winning. Look at that tight in the hunt race, and this should come down to the final week of the year. The Legion of Boom Seattle Dynasty battles the 80s Washington Redskins, the Dynasty with 2 Super Bowls. Gary Clark gives the Redskins a 4th quarter lead. 2-point conversion, no good. It's 13-12. Wilson had a nice day, as did Marshawn Lynch, as he gives Seattle the lead with 1:06 to go. 20-13 Seattle. 1:02 left. What does Joe Theismann have in his bag of tricks? A deep pass over the post, and then another one over the right post, and a face mask penalty to Don Warren gives Washington a first down inside the red zone. With under 30 seconds to go, Browner forces the fumble. Irvin brings it back all the way to about the 10, and then he waltzes into the end zone. That's about as slow a touchdown return as I've seen, and Seattle has won the game. They need just one more win to clinch the postseason. And next week, Seattle plays host to the 2000s St. Louis Rams. 40s Browns and the 80s Giants, both teams are way on the outside looking in of the postseason. Cleveland currently leads the DSFL 6 in offense, led by star quarterback Otto Graham. There's Lavelli. Then the Browns tie the ball game with this 23-yard touchdown pass to Horace Gillum. But in the 4th quarter, down by a field goal, the offense misses once on 3rd and 2, misses twice on 3rd down and 2, and here with under a minute to go in the ball game, 4th and 16, Graham's long ball is knocked away. The playoffs are becoming less and less of a possibility for Cleveland. Joe Morris runs for 2 touchdowns, and the 80s Giants win the game by a field goal. 40s Bears and the 70s Vikings. Minnesota came into this game on a 3-game winning streak, including a rout at Tampa Bay, 28-14. But that top-flight 70s Purple People Eaters defense, well, they got terrorized by Sid Luckman and the Chicago Bears. The NFC Offensive Player of the Week throws for 4 touchdowns. This to John Siegel to ice it. The 40s Bears, they are an absolute far cry from the playoffs, but Sid Luckman's giving them a chance with 348 yards passing in the blowout road win against Minnesota. 10s Panthers and the 60s Packers from Lambeau. Cam Newton set the all-time rushing record for a quarterback in a season, but Marv Fleming scores his first touchdown of the season, and Green Bay has taken the late lead in Lambeau Field. Under a minute to go in the ball game, Cam Newton shows off his arm on this drive. Christian McCaffrey to the 42, and then a few plays later, Newton goes deep, and Herb Adderley intercepts for Green Bay. The 5th pick of the season for the star Packer cornerback wins the game. Green Bay has won 6 of their last 8. Now at 8-6 are the Packers this year. So the Packers are roaring into the playoffs, if indeed they make it. But down the home stretch of the season, the Colts are limping to the finish line. Dallas Clark suffers what is a ruptured disc. He is one of 5 Colts players who will not play the remainder of the DSFL 6 regular season. and as a result, Houston takes full advantage of an injury-shortened Colts roster. George Blanda shreds the defense, and Tony Dungy, you can see it. He is losing his grip on the football team as the Colts are falling apart in the final weeks of the regular year. Indianapolis falls to 9-5. They are just 2-3 against the division, including this one to Houston. The 2000s St. Louis Rams need just one win in the final 3 weeks to clinch the playoffs. Ernie Conwell finds the end zone here for St. Louis, but then in the second quarter, Dana Paulson picks off Warner and brings it back for a touchdown. With under 2 minutes to go in the game, Joe Namath and the Jets face 3rd and 5 to win the ball game, and Emerson Boozer converts. New York is out of the playoffs, but they are making some noise in the home stretch of the season. Meanwhile, the 2000s Rams will have to wait to next week to clinch the playoffs. Jets 19-13. So as I go over these highlights, I'll just let you know the NFC has now become airtight. Detroit is one of 5 teams who are 8-6 in the NFC, joining San Francisco, Minnesota, Philadelphia, and Green Bay. What does 8-6 mean? It means there's only 3 of those teams that will make the playoffs, so they've got to keep on winning. 2000s Bucks and the 2010s Falcons. This was a good football game, but I'm going to shorten the highlights because both teams were eliminated from the playoffs last week. Donnie Abraham brings back 1 turnover for a touchdown. Derek Brooks forces a fumble of Ryan, and he is scooping, and he is scoring. Buccaneers take the lead 14-7. Ryan comes right back with a touchdown pass on an incredible play from Roddy White of Atlanta. And in the fourth quarter of this one from the Georgia Dome, Falcons lead the game 24-17. Johnson goes deep on a 4th and 5 and delivers Keyshawn Johnson to put him in the red zone. 4th and 6 with 5 seconds to go in the game. Johnson's pass is incomplete. Tony Dungy is irate. Neither club will make the playoffs as the NFC South was won by New Orleans. The 2010s Baltimore Ravens have caught fire at the home stretch of the season. They have won 3 games in a row, and now it's 7-7. They are at least a factor. They still have a slim, very slim chance for the playoffs, but at least they've got a chance now. 3 straight victories for the Ravens, who are now 7-7 this year. One of the 2 DSFL 6 Game of the Weeks takes us to South Florida. Brady has had a fine year as quarterback of the 2010s New England Patriots. They visit the 70s Dolphins. For New England, they clinch the division with a win. For Miami, they clinch the playoffs with a win. Not quite the AFC East because of tiebreakers. Gronk gives the Patriots the lead, but then Larry Zonko scores 2 touchdowns in the second quarter. And Miami pulls in front at the half by a score of 14-7. There's a look at the numbers through 2 quarters of football in Miami Gardens. In the third quarter, Greasy loses the football, and Lawrence Guy recovers a little bit faster on the return, and Guy is in the end zone. Instead, he is stopped to the 9. Why is that important? It's because New England is stopped at the goal line by Ridley. He is in for the injured James White. Patriots settle for a field goal. Greasy loses the football again, forced by Jabal Sheard. This time the Dolphins recover, so New England couldn't quite convert again. And to begin the fourth quarter, Brady would come out firing. This one to a player in the Patriots uniform, and the next play, this is to a player in the Dolphins uniform. Returned 68 yards by Dick Anderson for a Miami touchdown. Dolphins pull in front by 2 scores, but Tom Brady threw for 329 yards in the ball game, and he would continue his onslaught of Miami. But in the red zone, the Patriots are stopped again. Instead of tying the game at 21, they have been stopped in the red zone twice, so they're down by 8. Zonka's stuffed on a 3rd down. So with under 2 minutes to go, out of timeouts, there's the GOAT at quarterback again. Another big play downfield. I'd certainly love to hear if you guys think that he isn't the GOAT. I think he is. Among quarterbacks, I don't think he's the greatest player of all time, but here he is getting a huge break in the mistake of all time by Miami. So the Patriots, with Jim Riley's pass interference, gain 25 yards on the penalty. 2nd and 10, Brady finds his man Julian Edelman to the 2. He is wrapped up there, and the Patriots cannot get the next snap off in time, and the Dolphins have clinched the playoffs. Miami has won 5 games in a row. And the 70s Dolphins are playoff bound. That's the only team that won every game during a season, 21-13 Miami. Early in the video, I talked about there being 5 NFC teams who are all 8-6, and only 4 of them as of today would make the playoffs. Well, Philadelphia is one of those teams. Van Buren, 20 carries, 77 yards, and that touchdown. And the 40s Eagles win the ball game in Arizona, 23-10. The 2010s New Orleans Saints clinched the division last week. The 2010s Kansas City Chiefs are tied at 8-6 atop the AFC West division with a win tonight against New Orleans. That Saints offense racks up 420 yards in the ballgame against Kansas City. Breeze throws for 2 touchdowns, including this beauty to Marcus Colston. Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes was sacked 8 times in the ballgame. This ices it for the Saints, and Patrick Mahomes will be sacked for the final time this year. Mahomes breaks his collarbone and is out until the Dream Bowl with that injury. Huge loss for Kansas City. He goes down leading the league in passing, but that record most likely will be trumped by Drew Brees in the coming weeks. New Orleans dominates 35-19, and now the Chiefs turn to Alex Smith. Game of the week number 2 for week 15 of the DSFL 6. This was good, so grab your popcorn and get ready for this one. Joe Montana throws 3 interceptions in the ball game. His last comes with 4:53 to play in the fourth quarter by Kevin Smith. Cowboys score on a Derek Lassick touchdown, 2-point conversion, no good. And with this score from Jerry Rice, the Niners are down 5. Onside kick recovered by Kevin Williams of Dallas, but the Cowboys go 3 and out. One of those plays was a pass, so the Niners still have 1 timeout. They'd use it after this big play to Freddie Solomon. 1st and 10, Montana heaves it deep downfield, and at the 2-yard line, Kevin Smith, who had an interception of the game, commits the pass interference penalty. So the Niners have 1st and goal from the 2 after Montana overthrows a touchdown on 1st and goal. With 1 second left on 2nd and goal, Taylor dropped the football, and the Dallas Cowboys, now 9-5, have won the ball game. Niners drop to 8-6 with this critical goal line drop from John Taylor. The 49ers, as of today, are the 6th seed. The best team in football against the worst team in football. 70 Steelers against the 80s Bengals. Pittsburgh comes in on an 8-game winning streak. Joe Kelly picks off Terry Bradshaw. Then in the fourth quarter, Madden yet again strikes again. Here's a look at a catch. It's a catch. It is a catch. It certainly is a catch. No, they call that a drop by Lynn Swann. Bengals win the game 17-10. Here's a look at the scores from week 15 in the DSFL 6. And here are the top teams in the entire league, led by Pittsburgh with the loss. They are 10-4. So for the final few weeks of the DSFL 6 regular season, I'll bring you the wild card chase. It's like one of those high-speed pursuits. It's coming right down to the very end. We begin to the AFC. As of today, Denver and Kansas City are atop that line where 7 make the playoffs, but the Chiefs lost their starting quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, so Alex Smith will start next week against 5-9 Atlanta. As for number 6 Denver, a win against the 60s Chargers in their playoff bound. The Ravens have won 3 games in a row, and they have the easiest schedule of all these teams. No opponents over 500, including the Giants next week. Meanwhile, the Browns have lost 2 in a row, 3 of their last 4. They are reeling and need some serious help in the AFC, and this team plays the Steelers in the final week of the regular season. And now let's go over to the NFC wildcard chase, and somehow this chase is even tighter than that in the AFC. Let's go from top to bottom. Number 6, the 80s 49ers have the easiest opponent next week at 4-10, putrid Arizona. Meanwhile, the 7th seed Philadelphia Eagles, well, the team not only can all but clinch a wild card spot if they control their own fate, but this team also can win the division still. And next week, that's their opportunity in Arlington against the 90s Cowboys. Meanwhile, Detroit is going to need some help. Next week, they battle the 5-9 Bucks. And Minnesota needs a lot of help because they lost the game that matters. Look at the bottom right corner of that Vikings ledger. They are only 1-4 against the division, and they visit the hot New Orleans Saints next week. This is the DSFL 6, the series to determine the greatest dynasty of all time.